Hi people, welcome back here again. I'm gonna discuss in this video, or not I'm gonna discuss, this video essentially is a guide to spirituality, a basic guide for the average person. So essentially what the average person should keep in mind and what general guidelines they need to follow in relation to spirituality. I'm gonna be reading from my own article. This video will be embedded in that article, and you can also find the link to the article. So everything that I'm going to discuss in the description of this video, linked in the description. So let's begin. Where does the average person you'll see on the street, so to speak, fit in the world of the spiritual? Or these same people might ask themselves the same, but in reverse. So where they fit in the world regarding the spiritual? The average person, unfortunately, is mired in materialism, and their logic is, what I can see, hear, and feel is all there is. Obviously, to an occultist, this couldn't be further from the truth. All you have to do is survey people in general, and you'll hear their absolute ignorance regarding anything that even remotely resembles spirituality. For example, ghosts don't exist, psychics are a scam, etc., etc. Below are general guidelines for mundane people regarding spirituality and general rules they need to keep in mind. Rule number 1, you and your scientific gadgets are not the center of the universe. It is from the immaterial world that the material sprouts forth, not the other way around, contrary to popular mundane belief. Everything you see comes from the spiritual. So in other words, the spiritual gives birth to the material. Yeah, that's pretty much self-explanatory. There's not really anything that I can explain there. The average person, if you're an average person watching this and you don't know squat about spirituality, nothing, then there's a high probability or a high chance that to you, everything you can see, hear, and feel, you feel that that's all there is to life or to existence. You think, oh, okay, there's no life after death, there is nothing, blah, 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 blah. What I can see, hear, and feel is all there is. Or at the very least, even if you're skeptical but you still think, hey, there might be life after death, or there is life after death, you still hold the material world in high regard, as in, yeah, what I can see, hear, and feel enjoys priority above everything else. And yeah, that's obviously definitely not the way you're supposed to go, because it is from the spiritual that the material comes for. Bluntly put, everything that you can see, hear, and feel, everything, literally everything, everything that you can see, hear, and feel comes from what you cannot see, hear, and feel with your naked eye, so to speak, or your naked ears, etc., or your naked senses. Or better said, material senses. No. Rule number 2, man is not number 1 in the universe. See this article for an explanation that free will doesn't exist. In the article itself, you'll find a hot link where it is written. So the word article itself, at the sentence, see this article, has a link to my article on free will, and you're more than welcome, obviously, to check it out for the purposes of understanding everything better. As opposed to what the average person thinks, free will doesn't exist. Man sees himself as center of the universe, but that's by far not the case. At best, he's the number 1 apex predator in the material world, or top gun therein. But that is all. God, hypothetically speaking, has created the best soap opera in man, in the sense of, hey, I have the greatest idea. I'll create man, and then I'll make him reach a point or points where he thinks that he's the ruler of the world and has control over his own destiny. All the while having the grandest of laughs, since it's not even remotely the case. It's like an ant being infatuated with its own delusions of grandeur, or its own delusion of grandeur at some point or points in its existence. So we've reached points within mankind's existence that where man essentially sees himself as the center of the universe, as in, yeah, baby, I'm number 1. You know, look at how great we are, mankind. Look at all the civilizations we've created. We have science, technology, we have the medical world, we have blah, 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 blah. To the point where, for example, especially people that are, I'm not taking a jab at scientists, but for example, scientists or people of a like-minded nature, they become so infatuated with everything they've accomplished that they put themselves on the divine's pedestal, if you will. And they think to themselves, yeah, baby, I basically am the ruler of the world. I'm the king of the world. There is nothing greater than me. And And you couldn't be further from the truth if you tried. Doesn't matter how much you accomplish, okay? By that logic, an ant can also say, hey, look at that, we created a beautiful ant colony. Look at how many things, look at how hot we are. We're the center of the universe, baby. That's the same logic that man has, essentially. Base rule is that doesn't matter it doesn't matter how skilled you are, there is always someone that is higher on the existential scale. Doesn't matter how grand you think you are, there is always someone that is higher than you or better than you in terms of on an existential level. You know, God being the highest. Doesn't matter what you want to believe, whether you believe in God or not. You can use the phrase God, the universe, and you name it. My point is, there is something always out there that is bigger than you, to the point where you reach the biggest thing in the universe and then it stops. The biggest thing in existence and then it stops. And yeah, for people that at the very least loosely believe in God, as in there is an almighty entity out there that controls everything and that is capable for creating everything, heaven and earth, everything that we see, hear, feel, and know. Just look at this, purely hypothetically speaking, obviously. I'm saying hypothetically because God lies beyond human comprehension. God lies even beyond my comprehension. Does not matter who you are. God lies behind your comprehension and that will always be the case unless He decides otherwise. And that's true for everything else in existence. Everything. Not even more or less, everything. That's the definition of being almighty. God is almighty. End the story. So yeah, just look at it hypothetically speaking from His point of view. I mean, God must be having the biggest of laughs, literally the biggest of laughs. You know, it's like the ultimate soap opera, the soap opera to eclipse all soap operas. You know, He's like, hey, you know, I have a great idea. I'm going to create mankind. You know, I'm going to create these creatures, and I'll call them mankind, like people, man. And you know, I'll create them the way I would imagine I would be if I were like them. That's what is meant by God created man in His own image, okay? Not literally as in that's what He looks like, God looks like. No, God has no distinguishable shape or form or anything like that. That's the whole definition of Almighty. With that line in the Bible, it simply meant that creating man in His own image simply means what I just said. That He basically created man in such a way that it's essentially how He would imagine Himself to be, as in, hey, if I were a human being, that's what I would look like. So that's where man's physical appearance comes from, or overall appearance, better said, both mental, astral, as well as physical. Just overall, okay? So your soul, astral body, and physical body, but primarily your physical body, as in your material likeness, your material appearance. And then He essentially said, you know what, I have a great idea. I'm going to create man, and then at several points in existence, or throughout existence, specific points, I will have them accomplish so much to the point where they think that they eclipse everything, including me, and that I don't exist, and that they're essentially the center of the universe. You know, it's having a good laugh. It's just, oh man, it's just hilarious. You know, it's like the ultimate form of deception. As in, for example, imagine just hypothetically speaking, being a slave owner. And then you own a slave, right? You live in colonial times, you're a slave owner. And then you own a slave, and then you say to yourself, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to have these slaves. I'm going to give them the illusion of freedom. I'm going to make them think that they're free. I'm going to keep pampering them and everything, etc., etc. And just for shits and giggles, I'll have a good laugh. Literally grandest of laughs. Okay, when I see them actually fall for it, they take the bait and they're enjoying themselves, they're laughing their asses off, etc., etc., etc. Ha 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 ha. Okay, that's what I'll be doing, definitely. And in the end, I'll only just make them fall flat on their face and to see the disappointment on their faces. It's just, it's toying. It's like a cat toying with a mouse, so to speak. As in, the cat says to himself, hey, you know what, I'll make this mouse think that he escaped. Oh no, you escaped! Gotcha, haha. That's essentially what we are to God as human beings, you know. We're literally nothing more than playthings. We're nothing but puppets, and God is the puppet master pulling on the strings, etc., etc. Like I just explained, you know. It's just because you really need to think to yourself, wow, how deluded you need to be so full of yourself to the point where you think that you are the center of the universe when you couldn't be further from the truth. And my whole article, as well as the video embedded therein, in which I explain that free will doesn't exist, and it's honestly, common sense tells you that free will doesn't exist. That already would make any person fall flat on their face, as in, yeah, wow. A lot of people, they're not aware of this. They just go through life like a couple of idiots, to say the least. Mankind's stupidity is like a black hole, never underestimate it. And infinite imbecileness right there for you. Okay, infinite levels of stupidity. I'm not kidding. And then you actually come to the realization as in, wow, I have no free will whatsoever. Nothing. Every thought that goes through my head, every fiber of my being is dictated by a higher power, or has been dictated. So I have no say in the matter. Doesn't matter what I do. Doesn't matter what I say, what I do. I have no say in the matter whatsoever. And yeah, that's why to a lot of people, it's a bummer. Why do you think it's a bummer? It's a bummer because that means that you were infatuated with your own existence. You thought so highly of yourself to the point where you were like, okay, so I've eclipsed the creator, hypothetically speaking even. You know, I'm in control of my destiny. I'll call the shots, etc. I've met people like that. I've explained this a long time ago to certain people, and they fell flat on their face. You could feel the disappointment. You could hear it in their voices. And one of them, for example, told me, what's the point then if there's no free will? Why do anything at all? But yeah, you don't understand that. He doesn't understand the concept of what I explained to him. As in, and after that he tried to deflect the responsibility or accountability by simply pretending that he was preoccupied or he had to be somewhere, etc. You could tell that he can't take harsh reality. He can't come to terms with the fact that there is no free will. And yeah, again, that just proves to you how that you at some point were so infatuated with yourself, or you've become so infatuated that you just, stuff like this will come like bad news. It's when you think that you're in control, when it's absolutely not the case. It's all a ruse, and you're gonna be disappointed if you're not prepared for it. This is something that I never forget, honestly. Doesn't matter how skilled I am, how talented I am. Does not matter, okay, how far I ascend or how highly I ascend. I still have no control over anything. My entire existence has already been, the story of my existence has already been written before I was born even. And as is the case for everyone. But yeah, I simply told them that doesn't mean just because there is no free will, doesn't automatically mean that you should just hang up your coat and call it a day and say, okay, screw it, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit there and drop dead or similar, or wait until I starve to death or die from thirst, etc., or malnutrition. No. Even if you do so, and that's what I explained to him, even if you do so, understand that even has also been predicated. It's already, your entire fate, it doesn't matter what you do, it's already set in stone, okay, so to speak. It has already been decided that at some point you would come across me and I would explain all of this to you, the lack of free will or the absolute absence of free will. I do need to briefly state though that to not confuse things, free will, with just mundane choice, as in being able to decide what you want to do, etc. In that way, man directly has free will, in the sense that you can choose what you want to have for dinner, etc., etc. But even that is still an illusion, because even the smallest choice you make, like having dinner, deciding what you want to have for dinner, do I want to have chicken or do I want to have pork for dinner, all of that even has already been decided for you. Bluntly put, it was already decided you were going to scratch your ass at some point on a specific day, on a specific time, at a specific time. You name it, all of that has already been predicated. So I also explained this to this acquaintance of mine back then, that even if you think to yourself that, hey, what's the point then? I'm just going to hang up my coat and just die right here where I sit or where I stand. Even that's already been predetermined. So there's nothing you can say or do, period. Again, there is nothing you can say or do, period. Last but not least, your actions, yes, all of them are perpetuated by higher forces, and ultimately the highest. Every thought, breath, action, etc. comes from higher up. Yeah, I already explained that just now. Make no mistake, from a spiritual point of view, you as a human being are no different than a microbe to higher forces, and they dictate the terms of your existence. The same way that man has been given dominion over animals and whatnot, Doesn't matter what you believe or don't think or ever want to. These are facts and the story. The more you come to terms with this, the better. Yeah, and that's where the occult comes into play in general. I think I've already made this statement once or twice, but still, there's many people out there that are unfamiliar with it. When I was a beginning occultist, I worked with a spirit that I still work with. His name is Belial. Okay, people that follow me know what I'm talking about. And at some point in the beginning, when I still worked with him, I mean, I still work with him, but when I started working with him, I mean, at some point he told me, "You're kind of like parasites, Marino Ravenberg. They have no idea that we rule over them as dictated by God, as our positions that God has given us in the universe, or the positions that God has given us in the universe, and the dominion that we hold over your kind, as well as every other aspect of existence, by God's will, as is everything. They have no idea that your kind has no idea that we dictate up to a certain extent their actions and whatnot, that we decide what they think, hear, feel, and do. We like you personally because you're different. You're not so much like your kind. You're a unique kind of human being. You're a very rare kind of person, and that's why we like you. We're keen on you compared to the average person out there, your average human being, your average brethren or average brother or sister, if you will." And yeah, it's another explanation. Okay, as an occultist, every base occultist knows this. This is a basic rule. Everything you say, hear, and feel is dictated by spirits, and again, is dictated goes all the way up to God. That's the divine hierarchy. That's the divine power structure. The same way that in a company, okay, you've got the CEO, the big boss man, so to speak, and you have got supervisors under him, general managers, blah, 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 and there's an entire power structure that goes all the way down to this lowest level employee. The same aspect accounts for existence. Regardless of whether you believe in God or not, like I said, these are facts. You can use the phrase the universe, doesn't matter. My point is the highest of uppers, the highest one, okay, the highest being in the universe has a power structure as well, or the universe as a whole, being the highest entity, has a power structure that applies to us as human beings as a whole as well. And you have other energetic forces, whether you believe it or not, does not matter what you believe, these are facts, that are granted a certain amount of dominion or a certain amount of rulership over you as well as every other aspect of existence. That's why in occultism, you have spirits that rule over, for example, the elements air, earth, fire, water, or either partially rule it, or for the most part, or completely, you name it. And you have spirits that rule over the earth, you have spirits that rule over science, that rule over this or that, you name it. And it just goes down. All the way to the most insignificant of things. There are even spirits that rule over feces, so over waste, whether it be human waste or otherwise, coming from some other mammal or some other creature. But yeah, everything down to the smallest microfibrous of things. We're talking about the smallest of things. Bacteria, anything you can think of, is ruled by an energetic entity, and the highest has put that energetic entity in place and given him or her or it dominion over that which he or she or it rules over. And yeah, that's essentially existence for you in a nutshell. And that's it. There's nothing else that I have to say really. And again, like I said in the closing sentence, the more you come to terms with this, the better. If you're an average person and you don't know anything, you're one of those guys that really just thinks that psychics are a scam. Don't get me wrong, it's not a black and white matter. Some psychics, the majority of them as a matter of fact, statistically are a scam. But what they represent in terms of subject matter, in terms of clairvoyance, is anything but a scam. You'll never come closer to the truth than is the case with spirituality. The truth regarding existence and how the world works. And the more you keep everything I say in mind and it sinks in, as in it actually gains a foothold in your mind, the more you come to terms with this, the better. And you'll see for yourself what I mean by the better. If you get there, of course. In any case, that's all. See you guys later. Bye.